Welcome to the Real World. My name is Cameron. Today on episode 98 of the Real World podcast, we're talking about all the best hitman or assassin movies. Welcome to the Real World. My name is Cameron. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Real World podcast. Make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos. Today, we're taking a look at all the best movies about hitmen or assassins. But first, let's kick things off as we usually do with some movie news. A new Hunger Games book and movie has been announced. The title is Sunrise on the Reaping. It will cover the 50th Hunger Games, which is the second quarter quell. That's the games won by Haymitch Abernathy, the character played by Woody Harrelson in the Hunger Games movies. Very curious to see who they're going to end up casting as a younger version of that character. The book is set to release next year with a movie on its way shortly after. Josh Brolin and Thomas Hayden Church join Wake Up Dead Man, the third Knives Out mystery film. Also, an image has been released from the set of Daniel Craig back as Benoit Blanc. Very curious to see what the next entry in this franchise is going to be. Rian Johnson is one of my favorite writer-directors of all time. So this is one that I'm greatly looking forward to. Wes Anderson's new movie gets a title and a cast. It is called The Phoenician Scheme, and the cast includes Bill Murray, Tom Hanks, Michael Cera, Willem Dafoe, Riz Ahmed, Rupert Friend, Benicio del Toro, Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch, and Bryan Cranston. This movie is set to begin production very soon, and a release date will be announced shortly. Elle Fanning is set to star in the new Predator movie. The working title is Badlands, and it is coming from the director of the recent Predator film, Prey, Dan Trachtenberg. He's going to be returning as the director. I'm a huge fan of Prey, so I can't wait to see what he does next with this new Predator movie, rumored to take place in the future. The first trailer for Piece by Piece dropped online this week. This is a first ever for the Lego Movie franchise. This is a biopic about musician Pharrell Williams. That's right. Pharrell Williams is getting his own biopic, but it's not going to be live action. It's an animated Lego film. This is a very unique idea, and I am actually ecstatic to check this out. The trailer looked excellent, and I'm really interested to see what they do with this very interesting mix of genres. All right, that's it for movie news. Now it's time to jump into our main topic. We're talking about hitman or assassin movies. We're going to talk about how we came about this list. It's going to be a fun discussion. The new movie Hitman is on Netflix. That's why we chose this topic. A lot of people are talking about it. So I wanted to give you our top 10 favorite movies involving hitmen or assassins. Joining me on this endeavor is Bert. How you doing, man?
Hello, Cam. I'm doing great. How's it going?
It's going well. It's going well. I'm still alive. No hits out on me yet, which is good. But it looks like someone's after you, so be careful.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about how we went about picking these movies. This is kind of a broad topic, although it's not as broad as say like action movies, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's a there's a lot of these types of movies more than I realized when we first picked the topic.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we wanted to go about them, and we always try to kind of put rules in place or whatever to whittle down the lists. So mine, I guess you could say I geared it maybe a little more towards hitmen as far as, we use the terms hitmen or assassin movies kind of interchangeably, but I guess hitmen more are like hired by the mob or something like that is kind of what I
Okay.
kind of, I guess, geared mine towards a little bit. Assassin, I think more of like, I don't know, maybe government assassins,
Like
something like that.
ex-CIA, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess I lean maybe a little bit more towards the hitman element of it. Although I guess a couple of them you could call like more, you know, uh, government sanctioned hitmen, assassins, something like that. Um, and I wanted to, as with a lot of my lists, I like a lot of older movies, so I try to get, a kind of wide array of movies from, the old days of Hollywood, and
Good.
even a couple
Yeah.
of mine are foreign films, so
Mm,
I try to really mix it up as much as I can, get as much variety. Kind of if, someone was coming to me and we're like, hey, I'm kind of into Hitman movies. What should I watch? I would kind of give them these 10 movies to go and check out the all kinds of different Hitman movies that are out there. All
yeah.
of mine are above 4 stars though, so they're all movies I
Mm.
really like as well. What was kind of your approach, Bert, going into this list?
Yeah, this was a bit tricky to figure out because we did spy
Right,
movies.
right.
And this is not supposed to be spy movies per se. Not that there's not maybe a teeny bit of crossover.
Hmm.
But you mentioned Hitman for the mob, or if it's a Hitman, I think I try to think more of like, is it someone that's under contract, like the contract out on somebody? That's the
Right.
Hitman, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to a spy. A spy is working for the government, their country, or whatnot. Although I do have some that are like ex-spies, they're like, you know,
Right.
some of these are really, they're just kind of just waiting for something to go wrong, and then then Liam Neeson kicks in or whatever.
Right.
And then I try not to do bank robbery
Mm-hmm.
movies, because those guys are kind of like assassins in some ways, not really. So that's why I didn't
Sure.
use them, because it doesn't really
Yeah.
fit.
Right.
And I didn't really pick any that were mafia hitmen, and no problem if you
Mm.
did, but
Hmm.
I tried to, because I feel like mafia films maybe is a another thing. So I don't really
Sure.
have any, I don't think, that are mafia. And then the last thing I'll say is that there's a few that are series, like a series of films.
Right.
And so I decided to just take one out of that series instead of,
Right.
putting three of them in my top 10 or something like that.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Yeah, we could have all four John Wick movies up at the top of our list here, but
That's a great example. Yeah.
yes, yes, exactly. So, all right, cool. So it sounds like we're kind of on the same wavelength for the most part. So let's jump into some honorable mentions. All right, so a number of honorable mentions here. Like I said, there's a lot more of these types of movies than I realized there were. So wanted to run down a few of these. A couple of them I just saw for the first time this week. One of them is made back in the 80s. I think it came out in 84. It's a British film. It's called The Hit. And
Hmm.
this stars some pretty big name actors. One is Terrence Stamp.
Oh
Another
yeah.
one is John Hurt.
Oh,
And a young
okay.
Tim Roth is in it as well.
Hmm.
So a good cast. It's a road movie, which is a different type of movie for a hitman movie.
Ooh.
Typically, they're like in a
Yeah.
city or a specific location. This is
Yeah.
one where they pick up a guy and they have to transport him somewhere before they can kill him, because they have to, it's the
Hmm.
rules of the thing. The boss, wants him in a specific location. So, very unique type of hitman movie. It was funny. It's not a comedy, I guess, maybe kind of a dark comedy. I mean, all these are kind of, if there's any comedy, it's pretty dark because they're dealing with murder, But this is a fun watch. I really enjoyed it. Had a good
Hmm.
time watching that one, so I would check that out. Another one that I know you've mentioned, it may be in your honorable or maybe in your top 10 even. It's called Gross Point Blank with John Cusack. That is a ton of fun. Really enjoy that film a lot, where he's playing a hitman going back to his high school reunion. Just didn't quite make the cut.
I
Another
don't think
one.
I've ever even seen that one. So
Oh, have you
actually,
not? Oh, really?
no,
Oh, I
no,
thought
no.
you had talked about that before.
No, I probably talked about John Cusack a
Yeah,
few times, but
yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you got to check that out. It's him and Minnie Driver are both in it, and they're both great. It's a really really good movie. So yeah, definitely put that on your watch list. I think you'll get a kick out of it.
Hmm.
Another one kind of in the same vein, dark comedy, is called In Bruges with Colin Farrell,
Okay.
Brendan Gleeson, and Ray Fiennes. Really good movie.
Yeah.
Really well written movie. Like I said, it's very dark. Opens up with a pretty dark sequence, and then kind of really the movie's just the two hitmen kind of waiting for their next orders, basically after this, job goes wrong, essentially. So
Okay.
it's really really interesting character kind of focused film that I really enjoy. Another one is a Korean film called A Bittersweet Life,
Hmm.
about a hitman Very, very well made Korean film. And then last one I'll mention for now, I've got a few more, but I'll let you get a few of yours in, is Ghost Dog, The Way of the Samurai. This is a very interesting movie. Jim Jarmusch directed it. He's kind of a quirky filmmaker. He's done a lot of very kind of odd films.
Hmm.
Dead Man is one that I like, a Western with Johnny Depp he made back in the 90s. This was made in
Oh,
99, and it stars
okay.
Forrest Whitaker
Oh,
as a
okay.
hitman living in New
Oh.
York City, who's kind of learning about, as the title suggests, the kind of Japanese code of the samurai,
Hmm.
as he's kind of trying to live a life as a hitman, but honorably. That
Hmm.
kind of juxtaposition, that kind of interesting,
Yeah, yeah.
thing that a lot of these movies, I think, kind of deal with.
Oh, yeah.
But very well made, very well made. It's streaming on
Huh.
Max right now. If you subscribe to Max, you can check it out. I would highly recommend it. Very kind of offbeat type of film, very unique. But that's one that I had to mention. So, Bert, give us a couple of your honorable mentions.
All right. I actually have three total.
Okay.
So the first one I'll mention is Memento. And this
Mm,
isn't typically one you think of as a hitman
yeah,
or assassin film.
right.
And major spoiler warning, because if anybody's listening and has not seen Memento, please do not listen to the next words I'm going
Yeah,
to say.
right,
But Lenny essentially goes out and he's assassinating people at his choosing,
right.
based on his poor mental health.
Yes.
So I just didn't really feel like it fit that well into this category though,
Mm,
per
hmm.
se. Otherwise, it'd probably be at the top, honestly. I'm
Yeah,
5 stars on Memento. Love it.
yeah,
Great film. We could go on about that. But
yeah.
a
Excellent.
couple more I'll mention. The Accountants.
Oh, sure.
Um, yeah, that's a pretty good drama.
Hmm.
Starring Batman.
Yeah, I've got this
And
one, that one right here. Actually, I was going to mention
oh,
that
nice.
next because it is a cool performance by Affleck where he's got
Yeah.
kind of autism, OCD. He's dealing with all
Yeah.
these kind of
Right.
mental issues that he has, and he's a hitman. It's very unique type of hitman
Exactly.
movie. Yeah.
Yeah. I like it. Yeah, and then my last honorable mention is again, this doesn't fit the greatest, but it's called The Man Who Knew Too Little.
Oh,
And I
I've
don't know
heard
if
of
you've
this.
yeah, yeah, it's a Bill Murray comedy,
Right.
and it's kind of a spoof. It's like a noir
Mm.
spoof, right?
Okay.
And he plays an American, kind of like the ugly American, not ugly physically, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
the
Sure.
the American that does all the American things over
Yes.
in England,
Right.
and he's looking for something to kill some time, and he tries this it's like a murder mystery where you act out the parts with the people, but you go around the city almost like a scavenger hunt kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Sure.
describe. And then he gets
Uh-huh.
caught up in an actual murder plot,
Okay.
but he thinks it's fake, and so there's a
Right.
lot of really
Right.
funny situations. So that's a
Interesting.
comedy that I've enjoyed quite a few times. So he's kind of an accidental hitman in the movie,
Right.
because he gets kind of brought into this and doesn't even know that it's real. So it's pretty strange.
That,
It didn't fit great, but I just had to mention it because
yeah.
it's a fun film.
That sounds a lot like, I'm sure you've seen Game Night with Jason Bateman.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It sounds
I
kind of
love
like
that one.
that. Yeah.
That's true. Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good point. Yeah,
That's
yeah. That's I didn't
interesting.
even make the correlation, but yeah, they're very similar like that. Yeah.
That's cool. Great. I'll mention a couple more of mine. One that I was on the fence about because I don't really consider them hitmen. I guess they're putting out hits kind of just based on their own discretion. The Boondock Saints. Have you seen this?
No, I have not. I know it's like a huge cult following and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it's really good. I really like the
Yeah.
movie a lot. Yeah, two, brothers, they basically become vigilantes, essentially.
Hmm.
It's not really hitmen per se, but they've
Yeah.
got these
Yeah.
specific guys that they're going after. So I wanted to mention that
Sure.
because it's a movie I like.
Yeah.
Um, One that's kind of cool. It's a little over the top, especially with the gore. Ninja Assassin.
Hmm.
Uh, I mean, Assassin's right there in the title. The Wachowskis produced this. They didn't direct
Oh,
it.
really? Okay.
They produced it, and it's pretty good. I mean, it's fun. It's a fun action movie.
Hmm.
Um, it's not like a perfect movie. It's kind of one of those guilty pleasure, kind of just fun
Gotcha.
ones to throw on every once in a while.
Sure. Sure.
Um, but I like that one a lot. And then I'm a big fan of Haywire. This came out in 2011.
Hmm.
Gina Carano coming out of her MMA
Oh.
success. This was her first starring movie, and it's directed by
Oh,
Steven
really?
Soderbergh, who did, the Ocean's films.
Yeah.
Um, and it's got a great supporting cast. I mean, Michael Fassbender, Ewan McGregor, Bill Paxton, Channing Tatum, Antonio Banderas,
Wow.
and Michael Douglas are all in this.
Wow.
in smaller roles,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the action in it's great. I mean, she's
Hmm,
incredible with the action sequences. They're very hard hitting and kind of intense,
I bet.
very very realistic.
Huh.
And it's a tight runtime too, only like 93 minutes long. But again, it's one of those where she wasn't a assassin and she's trying to get out, you know, it's kind of one of those stories. So it's one that I was kind of felt like it was in between what we were kind of trying to
Yeah.
focus in on a
Yeah.
little bit. So that's why I
Yeah.
mixed it. And then my last two here,
Mhm.
um, The American, which is underrated,
Oh,
underseen film with George Clooney. I quite enjoyed it. It's all set in Italy. Um, and you know, he's kind of one of these aging hitmen that kind of wants to get out. And
yeah.
I thought it was pretty good. I've enjoyed it a couple times. So I wanted to mention that one. And then one with Brad Pitt that not a lot of people talk about. It came out in 2012. It's called Killing Them Softly,
Oh,
where
okay.
he plays a hitman.
Oh,
Um, it's a really good performance. It's another one that's underrated. Not a lot of people have seen or talk about it. It's
hmm.
set during the 2008 election and financial crisis. Um,
Hmm.
it's just kind of one of those like small town mobster type movies. It's just
Okay.
very, very different, very, good writing, direction. Brad Pitt's great in it. Scoot McNairy is great in it, and Ben Mendelsohn is also really good
Hmm.
in that movie. So I would definitely recommend seeking that out. It's also on Max. You can watch it there. And then the one that was hardest to cut was The Bourne Identity. I'm a huge fan
Hmm.
of the Bourne franchise.
Sure.
Great movies.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
didn't quite make the cut. I feel like a lot of people know about these, and I kind of wanted to leave room in my top 10 for movies that people didn't know as much about. So that's why that
Gotcha.
one didn't quite make it. But I'm a huge fan of those films. So did you have any more?
No, that's all I've got for
Okay,
HMs.
excellent. All right. Well, it's time to move into our top 10, folks. All right, here we go. Now it's time for our top 10 favorite Hitman or Assassin movies of all time. So Bert's going to kick us off. What do you have in at number 10?
At 10, I've got The Equalizer Part 2
Okay.
with
Okay. Good.
Denzel.
Good pick.
So far, I think I like that one the best, but I like them all about the same, frankly.
Okay.
And I find that they're all very enjoyable, and kind of have similar tone and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
They're this crime action thriller genre, I guess you could say.
Right.
The thing is, the, the movies themselves are just kind of okay, except that Denzel is so good
Yes.
that
He
it
elevates
just
them. Yeah.
elevates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And so I find myself going, I mean, it wasn't anything that memorable per se, but from start to finish, it's enjoyable.
Yep.
And that's just, the power of Denzel. Of course, we had a podcast. Then we do a ranking on Denzel films,
We did. We did. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah. And this one's good, and it's not even in probably my top 15 Denzel films. But yeah, I think Equalizer 2 is probably the best. There's a really good score, by the way, in part
Mm,
two, and it's very present. I've been finding lately that when there's a film that they really let the score come to the forefront, it can
mm.
really aid the film a lot, kind of like the
Yeah.
Dune movies, and
Right. Oh,
and I
yeah.
think there's another one I'm going to mention too that it does that. And so if the score's really good and it's right in
Right.
the forefront, it kind of feels like another character in the film.
Yeah.
So yeah, but part two or Equalizer two, I felt
Yeah.
it had a really good score. So,
Yeah.
that's what I've got. I don't know what you think about the series.
Yeah, I like the first one pretty good. I thought the second one was better. I think it's a
Yeah,
superior
yeah, a
film
little bit.
on pretty
Yeah,
much every level. I
yeah,
really like the
yeah.
story better. I like the action better.
Uh-huh.
All of it I thought was superior. I still haven't watched the third one. I think it's on Netflix. I need to check it out.
It is.
Um,
Yeah. Hmm.
is it okay? Cool. Yeah, I'll definitely be watching the third one because yeah, the first two are solid movies. I think Anton Fuqua directed those. He's collaborated with Denzel many times before,
Right.
and yeah, it's a great character. I want to say it's based on a show,
Oh
an
yeah, there
old
was an 80s
show.
TV
Yeah.
show, but I didn't understand. I was pretty young when it was on, and I
Yeah.
remember seeing it on the TV, and I'm thinking I have no clue what's going on because it was.
Right.
I don't even know
Yeah.
if it was the same tone, but I feel like it
Yeah.
was. Like there was a guy that was trying to sort of level the playing field,
Yeah.
where the police couldn't do it, kind of like Dexter,
Right.
in the show Dexter.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good movies, good pick. Yeah, Equalizer Part Two is definitely solid pick. So off to a good start. Well, let's jump into my number 10, which is an old movie, the oldest movie on my list from 1946. It is The Killers.
Hmm.
So what's cool about this Criterion edition here is that it includes both versions of The Killers. The Killers is a Ernest Hemingway short story, which was
Oh,
adapted into film in 1946 and again in 1964.
hmm.
So this includes both films. So it's cool
Wow.
you get to watch both versions here. And I slightly prefer the 46 film. Big fan of black and white, so it's all in black and white. It's kind of got more of a noir feel to it.
Yeah.
Burt Lancaster's first movie,
Oh,
so it's his
okay.
breakout role. He does a great job in it. Ava Gardner, who's a hugely popular
Hmm.
actress back then as well, is in it. She's fantastic. Um, and so that's the version I prefer. The 64 version, Don Siegel directed it. Lee Marvin's in it, who I really like. Angie
Oh,
Dickinson,
yeah.
John
Huh.
Cassavetes is in it as well. So it's got a really good cast. It's a really good movie as well. They're both good. They're both just, different. But
Yeah.
kind of use the same basic plot. And it's pretty interesting to see how unique the 64 version is from the original. All the things that
Yeah.
they changed with while still keeping kind of the same idea throughout. So I would recommend both. I'm going to do a review of this Criterion edition because it is really cool the way they set it up and everything. And um, so yeah, that had to make the list just because I really enjoyed the kind of filmmaking. The visual style of it is great. It's got one of those non-linear narratives that kind
Hmm.
of jumps back and forth a lot.
Wow.
But it's very engaging, very easy to follow, really well made. So, yeah, The Killers. That's what made my number 10. It's about two hitmen. I mean, that's what it starts with. It starts
Yeah.
with two hitmen kind of wandering into town to complete this big job, and Burt Lancaster plays this boxer, and the whole narrative, the way it unfolds, is really interesting. So I won't give anything else
Hmm.
away, but yeah, it's a good one. So check it out.
Okay.
All right, Bert, we're on to your number 9. What do you have there?
Probably my oddest choice I have here for my list, and it probably doesn't even really belong in my list, but I had to put it in there. It's a movie called Let Me In
Oh.
from 2010.
Oh,
And have you seen
okay. Oh
this?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and I just to keep it pretty spoiler free, because it's really important in this film.
Mm.
It's about, let's just say, an assassin that chooses their own victims. Let's just put it that way.
It's a good way to
And
put it. Yeah.
yeah, directed by Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
Richard Jenkins is really great in it, as
Yes.
is Chloe Grace Moretz.
Right.
Just fantastic. And I don't even want to say a lot about it. It's kind of tough to sandwich it in as an assassin film, but at its at its roots, I mean, that's kind of what's going on. I'll
Right.
just leave it at that. So,
No, that's
but
that,
I don't
I
know if you
love
want
that. I love that outside the box choice. That's really thinking creatively. I thought one of mine was creative, but that's a very creative
to.
pick.
Yeah, I
Um,
definitely recommend this film though. It's a bit difficult to watch at times.
right.
Yeah, but I knew nothing about it going in except that it was a
Mm.
remake of I think a French film,
Yeah, yeah,
and
right.
I like the actors in it, and so I
Hmm.
like going in not knowing anything, and I'm so glad I did
Yes.
because wow, it's disturbing but kind of in a good way, and
Right.
definitely recommend it. Yeah,
Highly recommend that movie. Yeah, like you're saying, the performances are great across the board. Matt
yeah,
Reeves, one of my favorite writer directors. He just did The Batman. He did Cloverfield. He's done a lot
yeah.
of movies I really like. And yeah, that's one that doesn't get talked about enough. I feel like
No,
it's
no,
sandwiched
yeah.
between Cloverfield and um, I think he did the Planet of the Apes movies right after he did Let Me In. So that one's kind of
Mm,
gets lost in the shuffle, I feel like. But yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. So yeah, excellent choice. All right, moving on to my number 9. It's a film from 1966, the Swingin' 60s, a psychedelic, weird movie full of
mm,
uh, full of style and fashion and unique color palette. It's called Tokyo Drifter. Tokyo Drifter. There's
yeah.
another Criterion edition I found
Okay.
back when I was kind of getting into foreign movies and getting really into like noir films and stuff. This one kept popping up. Uh, so it's got kind of a noir feel, but it's unique and it's the color. I mean, the color in this movie is great. I mean, there's entire
Hmm.
sets that are just painted yellow, and like purple or whatever, covered in purple lighting and stuff. It's like it's a very interesting movie, very otherworldly, very kind of
Hmm.
arty, type of movie, but it tells a story, it's not just random
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
stuff going on. There's a story about a hitman that's
Okay.
trying to get out, it's one of those stories, which again, a lot of these are. So he's trying to get out of the game, and of course he's pulled back into this crazy web of crime and betrayal and all of this stuff. So yeah, it's very unique experience because like I'm saying, just visually it's different, but also, the lead character sings his own theme song in the movie, kind of just so it kind of randomly becomes a musical at points,
Ah,
but
okay.
it doesn't take you out necessarily.
Hmm.
Um, he kind of does it as like a intimidation tactic in a way. The bad guys will be like, he's singing the song again. Where is he? And they're all freaking
Gotcha.
out. So again, it's just
When I what
the
when I want to intimidate someone, that's what I do too. So it does kind of make
right.
sense.
I mean, it
Yeah.
works. I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but it works in this movie, and it's just fun. It's just fun to watch. It's another one that's a breezy watch. It's an hour and 22 minutes long, so it doesn't take very
Okay.
long to watch it. And yeah, he's the coolest assassin ever, though, because the way he dresses, the way he moves, the way he talks, and he sings his own theme song. You just don't get any cooler than that, in my opinion. So check that one out if
Right.
you're looking for something different. So that's my number nine. Bert, what do you have at number eight?
The Long Kiss Goodnight from 1996. This is a action comedy from Rennie Harlan, who was real big at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and starring Gina Davis. And
Hmm.
this is definitely one I can talk about because it doesn't really give a lot away.
Right.
But I mean, everything is in the trailer as far as she is. It's kind of like the Born Identity. She is living
Right.
a normal life, and then something happens, and then she finds out that she's got all these killer skills
Right.
and assassin-like moves and things like that. And
Hmm.
then her life starts to fall apart, and she has to demonstrate those assassin-like moves.
Yeah.
And really enjoy this one. I've seen it, a few times. But yeah, very similar to Born, except Born came a few years later. I should point that out. This is
Yeah,
not like a
sure.
copy of Born.
Right.
Um, and the film has a really cool, saturated look. There's really good, exciting music. I really like this because what it really comes down to is the comedy, though.
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson is hysterical in this, and
Right.
he's got the green light to just riff on anything and everything. He's not bound by MPAA rating or anything like that, I will say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just so much fun and funny and
Mhm.
some cool, just randomly cool shots. Like have you ever seen an assassin take out guys while she's on ice skates, for instance, and skating around,
Right.
things like that. So yeah, just so much fun.
Yeah.
Really recommend Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah, that's a solid flick. It is a lot of fun, and it of course has like an emotional kind of intense story to it as well, but it's balanced well with the comedy. And kind of the, more zany kind of moments, and um a lot of the comedy is character based, like you're saying, with Sam Jackson just kind of being him, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's a great kind of buddy dynamic they have too, which I really
yeah,
like.
yeah.
So
And
yeah,
kind of road
excellent
movie,
choice.
actually.
That's true. Yeah, it is a road movie. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Great choice. All right, moving into my next pick, going from your more comedic side to a deadly serious movie I've only seen once because it was kind of that intense.
Mhm.
It's Denis Villeneuve's Sicario. Um,
Oh, I haven't seen this yet. Yeah.
this is excellent. This is, like I said, it's intense, it's dark, it's realistic, it's all about
Hmm.
the drug war, so it's all dealing with the cartels and all that
Okay.
stuff. the main character, Sicario, by the way, means assassin in Spanish. So the
Okay.
title character is played by Benicio del Toro, but he's kind of not really in the foreground of the film until later. It kind of becomes
Hmm.
his movie as it goes on. We start off with Emily Blunt and her
Oh,
character, who's a DEA agent working under Josh Brolin's character. All three of
I
those
like him.
actors are fantastic in this.
Yeah.
And so you're kind of seeing it all through her eyes, all these incredibly, shocking things she's discovering. And then, Brolin's kind of the manipulator, kind of the guy in charge. And then you have Del Toro, who, is this kind of basically a mercenary. He's hired out, for to work with them. And then, like I said, as the movie goes on, you learn more about who he is and his backstory, and you find out he has his own mission that he's on. He's kind of
Oh,
using them. They think they're using him, but he's actually using them for his own intentions. So
gotcha.
it's a great story. It's shot beautifully.
Hmm.
Denis Villeneuve, he just did Dune, and he's done all these great movies over the past few years. And this is one that kind of put him on the radar for me. This is one of the first ones I saw him do. So yeah, definitely check out Sicario if you can stomach it. It's like I said, it gets pretty brutal at times, but it's a very very well made film. So yeah, check out that
And
one.
there's a sequel, right?
Oh, there is a sequel. Yeah, Day of the Soldado came out a couple years after it, and it's worth watching. I don't think it's as good. It's not the same director. They got a different director
Okay.
involved, and
Okay. Yeah, that was my question.
but it's a fine sequel. So yeah, but definitely check out the first one. All right, Bert, on to your number seven. What do you have there?
At seven, I've got a film from 2021 directed by Navo Papuchado. And
Okay.
and then the film's title is Gunpowder Milkshake.
Oh yes, I like this movie. This is a really cool
Yes.
movie.
Saw it for the first time. Karen Gillan?
Gillen, yeah, yep.
Yeah. And I spent most of the movie trying to just convince my brain that it's actually the person from the Avengers and
Oh
those
yeah, yeah,
movies.
Nebula, right? Yeah, right.
Nebula, yeah.
Yeah,
Because I'm like, is it her? No, yes, it's her.
right.
No, she's fantastic in it.
Mhm.
All the ladies that are sort of in the leading roles here are good.
Yeah,
And some really great music throughout this film.
yeah.
Again, it's another one of these where the music's kind of up in your face too.
Mhm.
It's it's fairly violent, but it's the action scenes are good and sometimes hysterical. A notable scene is the scene where Karen Gillan, her arms are numb, but she
Oh
still
yeah,
needs to be the assassin, and so she has something like taped to her
right.
arm and or both hands, I should say. And yeah, it's just the way it's carried out is very creative. This movie is
Yeah,
unlike anything that I've really seen. Almost makes me think of something that Zack Snyder would do, you know?
yeah. Sure, sure.
Along
Yeah,
the
I could
lines
see
of that.
that.
What's that one that has really got a lot of female characters in it
Yeah, Sucker
and
Punch.
very colorful and that kind of thing? Yeah, Soccer
Yeah,
Punch.
yeah.
Right. And yeah, this very rich colors. I love the
Uh-huh.
sets and the coloring.
Right.
So much fun with this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, I give it 3.5 stars the first time, but I have a feeling this one will be rising higher on subsequent viewings.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the best movies on Netflix. I would highly recommend it as well. I meant to mention it in honorable mentions. That's a good one. And another one I just thought of what it came out, I think, the same year. And it's got a similar vibe, a little bit of a darker tone. It's called Kate. And it has
Oh,
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, and she's kind of having to protect a younger girl who they're coming
oh,
after. Um, Woody Harrelson's in it. It's very good as
oh,
well. Has a lot of
okay.
like colorful sequences, a lot of neon and stuff like that. I
Okay.
think it all takes place in Japan or something. But yeah,
Yeah.
Gunpowder Milkshake, it's tons of fun. Yeah, that whole cast is great, and yeah, I really really enjoy that movie.
Yeah. Neo noir is kind of what it
Yes,
is, right? Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Yep.
The type of film.
Great.
Yeah. Mhm.
Great pick. All right, number seven. This had to be on the list somewhere. I put it a little lower just because, again, I wanted to focus more on other movies that we haven't talked about, but it had to make the list. It's John Wick. And I picked the first one because I feel like in this one he's more in assassin mode, maybe. I don't know. Like
Okay.
he's kind of
Okay.
just retired from it, and so he's pulled back in, and it's a very personal mission he's on.
Yeah,
where in
right,
the latter
right.
ones it becomes very big and like,
Yeah.
a big kind of war with the assassins, But this one is the most personal and intimate. It's hard to pick a favorite of them. I think they get better
Yeah.
as they go as far as the filmmaking stuff, but I feel like the
They just get
story
bigger and better.
here,
Yeah.
yeah, I feel like the story here though is kind of like I said, it's the most personal, most impactful. You
Sure.
really feel it. Um, so yeah, Keanu is fantastic in this. Willem Dafoe is in this first one, which I always forget. I don't know why I forget he's in it, but he's great in it. Of course, Ian McShane, the late Lance Reddick. Just a great movie. Again, lighting is incredible here. Like the camera work, the gun fu, which they, kind of invented for this movie and took it to another level, is just phenomenal. One of the best action movies ever made. So yeah, John Wick's the ultimate assassin. Like if we were just doing who's the best assassin, John Wick would be number one. But um, it ended up there on my list. Yeah, that's what I got there.
I'm glad you put number one on there because I
Yeah.
like to think of these four films as kind of a collection. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
series, right? That's why it's chapter one, two, three, four.
Right.
And chapter one is very good because it the reasons you said, but it just it's kind of like to me, it's kind of like the first Lord of the Rings film. Like
Right.
it's completely different than because the rest of the film gets so much bigger and crazier and all
Yes.
that, and all that's
Right.
great too. But you really
Yeah.
enjoy the Shire, right? So
Yes.
that
Right. Right.
it's kind of like if I
Yeah.
had to make a correlation.
No, sure. Absolutely. I know exactly what you're saying. That's great. All right. Well, that's it for my number seven. So, Bert, we're on to your number six. What do you got there?
Okay, at six, I've got a film that just came out recently called Boy Kills World.
Oh, did you get to see this?
I did.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I want to watch it.
You have not seen it. Okay,
I've not
so
seen it, no.
okay, that changes what I'm gonna reveal about it then.
Well, I know the
Um,
premise.
oh, you do? Okay.
I know
Yeah.
he's mute, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Right. And there's a voiceover the whole time
Okay.
thinking
Yeah, yeah, you're
what,
in his head,
yeah.
right?
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then and this was just another along the lines of Gunpowder Milkshake. I will say it had some, similar look to it and zany action. So they're kind of pretty close in that sense. I was surprised that Bill Skarsgård would take this role, honestly, because he doesn't need to,
Oh.
and he pulls off the action really well. There's a lot of comedy throughout this thing. A lot of these guys, assassins, guys and gals that are assassins, are people of few words.
Yes.
You know, he
Yes.
definitely is in this movie because he's mute. But in this case, his voiceover in person, and by the way, it's not voiced by Bill Skarsgård.
Oh, interesting.
And I don't want to give my thoughts on that since you haven't seen it.
Right.
But he's actually quite talky,
Okay.
so it makes for some really fun stuff. And so for this kind of film, I was surprised that by the end, that I was actually pretty pulled in emotionally. I
Mm,
couldn't believe it. Like I was
yeah.
all ready to review this film and go, yeah, it's another fun action movie, but I mean, it's really nothing special. But it does
Right.
get, pretty emotional
Okay.
at the end,
Great.
about taking care of your loved ones and
Mm,
that kind of thing. So, some very memorable action happens, but there's a lot of drama too. So,
okay.
don't miss it. I mean, you wouldn't miss this one, of course,
No,
especially
no.
probably with Skarsgård.
Oh,
But
yeah.
yeah, had a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
Great. Great. That's great news. Yeah, I've heard about it. I remember watching the trailer and I don't know what happened. I don't know if it didn't show at my theater or if it was only there for like a short amount of time and I missed it somehow. I don't know, but yeah, I definitely want to check it out because it definitely looked interesting. So yeah, that's good news. Glad it made your top 10. So I'll look forward
Yeah.
to checking it out.
Yeah. And by the
Um,
way, that one does start kind of odd. So,
okay.
once you stick with, at first I thought I didn't expect this movie to be very good, honestly.
Yeah, sure.
And when it started out, I was like, yeah, this is what I thought it was going to be, but it gets really good. So
Okay, good, good. All right, I'll
yeah.
stick with it. Cool. All right, well, on to my number six, which is a French film. So I got another foreign film for you. Another one from the 60s, 1967. This is called Les Samouraïs,
Hmm.
which means the samurai in French. And it's one of those movies that I, heard about a lot when I was looking at lists, a while back, foreign film, must-see foreign films or things like that. This is a highly influential movie. It's influential on guys, particularly on John Woo, who actually
Oh,
wrote like an essay in the Criterion edition here. They always include like a
oh, really?
little booklet in here that you can read.
Oh,
And
cool. I like when they do
John
that.
Woo wrote one of the articles in there. So highly influential on him and his films. And it's a movie that again has a lot of style, and it's just it's very different. It's almost black and white. It's shot in color, but it's a
Hmm.
lot of grays. A lot of most of the characters are wearing either black or white. It's
Hmm.
not a very colorful movie at all. It's very cold.
Okay.
It's but that fits the story, right? And the aesthetic of a Hitman movie. It's not a kind of fun, silly Hitman movie. It's a much more serious kind of introspective type of Hitman movie, a lot of it plays out without dialogue. Like you were just talking about, this Hitman is that does not say a
Yeah.
lot throughout this movie.
Right.
But you're with him. You get his whole routine. You get where he lives and how he
Yeah. Yeah.
lives and the whole thing. So it's kind of like a peek into a life of a hitman, and it's really
Yes. Yeah.
interesting and it's cool the characters he interacts with and the
Hmm.
police get involved with one of his hits and so he's kind of, in hiding a little bit and things like that. So it's really interesting. It's a very deliberate movie. It's not super long. It's like an hour 45 minutes, but it's very meticulous, a very detailed type of film. Um, Jean-Pierre Melville, who directed this, did a lot of great French films back in the 60s and 70s, what's known as the French New Wave movement, where they kind of
Oh.
a lot of these younger filmmakers kind of shook things up, in
Hmm.
Europe and did a lot of things that were very different from kind of traditional filmmaking. So it's one of those very, very well-made film, has a great story, great ending that I really enjoy. And I got to rewatch it last night and
Hmm.
still greatly enjoy it. So yeah, check that one out. That made my number six. So now we're into our top five, Bert. So these are kind of the cream of the crop, if you will. So what do you have at your number five slot?
Well, I've got probably a couple guilty pleasures actually in my top five. And
Okay.
to start it off with, for number five, I'm going to go with Taken from
Oh, Taken's
2008.
great. Yeah, great pick. Yeah.
Yeah, and a big, big reason why Taken is so good is because it's one of these, I'll say, like The Matrix, where there's an actor that I've enjoyed so much of their work, and then all of a sudden they start making these great action films.
Hmm.
And I even like a
Yeah.
lot of Liam Neeson's, in the years after that, as more recently as well. Not all of them are good, but I
Right.
like them more than most people do. Let's say that. And his best one of them, though, might be Taken,
Oh yeah.
and it's got this great premise, a great trailer, that ooh, I got to see that. And I didn't know if Liam Neeson could deliver on that
Yeah.
kind of physicality.
Right.
I mean, I presumably he did a lot of his own stunts in Star Wars,
Right.
right?
Yeah, but that would have been 10 years before
But
this.
that's true. Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
it kind of comes out of nowhere. It's like at some point Liam said, maybe I'll start taking some action roles,
Yeah.
like these. And just a very catchy kind of premise, obviously. The action scenes are just they feel abundant and feel better than they should be for a movie
Mm,
like this, because I feel like I've seen a lot of movies that are about whether it's revenge or vigilanteism, and the action's just kind of but the way it's shot and Liam's able to pull it off. He's big, he's a very tall, big guy.
oh yeah.
And so physically it looks good. Like he's not, a small person trying to go up against, The Rock or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, it just really delivers and I thoroughly enjoyed. I actually like all three of the films. I think I saw all
Mm,
three in the theater.
okay.
They don't get better as they go. Unfortunately, this
Right.
isn't a John Wick situation. So I picked the first one.
Yes.
Just a great action film. Not a lot of comedy, but that's okay.
Right.
Great action film.
Yeah, yeah, it is a heavier film. Although the subject matter is definitely heavy, but they don't ever go depict it in a way that is, I don't know, off-putting or disturbing. Yeah, as it could have
Yeah, it's an
been.
easy watch. It's an easy watch.
It
That's why
is. It
Yeah,
is.
yeah. I mean, it's a very
Absolutely.
accessible film. That's kind of what
Yep.
I go for is some of the, more accessible stuff, bigger
Definitely.
budget Hollywood stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's a great movie. It's a great performance. The gravitas that he brings to every line,
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
so good. And
Yeah.
yeah, like you're saying, I mean, he really gets in on the action and it's very believable. And
Right.
it totally works. So yeah, excellent choice. Great movie. Okay, we're moving on to my number five, which is a film from 2002, directed by George Clooney. It was a huge bomb. It had a budget of 30 million, only grossed 33. So it really didn't do anything. It went
Yeah.
under the radar. I don't think there was any kind of uh, award nomination or anything like that, although I think it more than deserved several nominations. Um, I think it's George Clooney's best movie he's ever directed. It's called Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Oh, okay.
And this is based on a true story, although we still don't know how much of it is true. Um,
Hmm.
it's about a guy named Chuck Barris, who was the creator and host of the dating game back in the 1960s and 70s.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in an interview, he claimed to have been a hitman for the CIA. And this is, of course, the CIA has never confirmed this.
Right.
And there's no
Can't. Yeah.
proof. But the movie basically goes into, okay, what if he really was, what he said he was, kind of thing. And so Clooney does a great job directing it. It's got a great visual style, all, firmly set in the 60s, late 60s, early 70s. And playing Chuck Barris is one of my favorite actors, Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
And he delivers a fantastic performance here.
Hmm.
It's so good. It's funny, yet it's got several kind of more intense moments as well. The entire cast is great. It's
Hmm.
got Drew Barrymore,
Oh.
Julia Roberts, Rutger Hauer,
Hmm.
Maggie Gyllenhaal's in there. Even Brad Pitt and Matt Damon make brief cameos, which is fun. I think this is right after they had done Ocean's 11. And so
Oh.
they were all buddies at this point. And so it's just a really well-made movie. Like I said, it's just the editing, the way the narrative is just crafted to make you know, question, is this real? Is this guy
Hmm.
real for real or not?
Yeah.
Um, it's very, very good. It's a very good
Hmm.
movie. I've seen it a couple times and really enjoyed it. I want to watch it again. It's because it's been a little while since I've seen it. I didn't get to rewatch it this week, but I don't think it's streaming anywhere right now. But definitely recommend it because, like I said, it's just one of those movies that kind of just slipped through the cracks for most people, and most people haven't heard of it or seen it. And it's definitely one of my favorites. Very, very different type of movie.
Nice. Yeah, I got to see that one. I think wasn't Sam Rockwell in Charlie's Angels with Drew Barrymore around that same time?
Oh, that's right. Yes, he was in that. Yep,
Yeah. Yeah. The
absolutely.
the, the bad boyfriend or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
Evil.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yep. All right, Bert, we're on to your number four now. What do you have there?
We're getting into some pretty high praise type situations here now.
Okay.
I have got, I think this is my number four, isn't it? Yeah, it's my
Yes.
number four. Yeah. So that's where I've got Leon the Professional,
Ah, yes.
as depicted, leaning over my shoulder here.
Yeah.
And talk about a man of few words. The character work here is just stupendous.
Mm.
I haven't seen a lot of Jean Reno.
Mhm.
Obviously, his work here is better than Godzilla 1998. Uh,
I would
had
say
to
so,
joke about
yes.
that a little bit. Yeah. But yeah, man, a few words. But
Mm.
again, kind of like a film you mentioned earlier, you just kind of get to see how he lives his life
Hmm.
and kind of keeps to himself, kind of a lonely existence to do
Yeah.
this kind of work.
Yep.
Not that
Exactly.
appealing, not, I wouldn't really recommend it for that
No,
fact.
definitely not.
Um, and I just love this idea of him becoming, he doesn't want to become sort of the surrogate father, but
Right.
he's, foisted into that role.
Yeah.
This is mostly a drama, this isn't
Hmm.
an action film,
Right.
but it's very gritty, feels very real
Hmm.
for the most part.
Hmm.
The action is believable,
Right.
and there's a lot of memorable stuff like this
Yes.
scene, which makes more
Right.
sense if you're actually watching the movie. And then of course Gary Oldman,
Mm.
boy, when he wants to go dark, it gets pretty scary. Now, I will say the only thing about this film is I don't really buy the police presence and this
Oh,
that deep of
sure.
corruption. I mean, it's a movie,
Yeah.
but the character that we get out of Gary Oldman,
Yeah.
some really great scary stuff here,
Oh, yeah.
and creepy and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And one one phrase that it kind of just I don't know, it's you can't forget it,
Yeah.
is the bring me everyone, right?
Right.
And I'm not going to try to do it, but wow, it's I love, from the first time I saw it I thought, oh man, that is some good stuff when
Yeah.
he basically screams bring me
Yeah.
everyone,
Yeah.
in a very good Gary Oldman kind of way. But
Right.
yeah, I just feel like this is a film that a lot of thought was put into. The script is very careful because
Mm.
it thankfully does not go the way of the girl that's played wonderfully by Natalie Portman, by the way, I should
Yeah.
say. She's desperate for somebody to
Right.
care about her,
Yeah.
to watch out for her, and
Mm.
she absolutely loves the fact that this man is willing to do anything to help her and care for her
Right.
and be her protector and and teacher, as far as the trade, which is kind of
Right.
funny. And you feel like he fully knows that he's not really equipped to
Mm.
do this,
Right.
and he fights it. Uh, but they're very careful about not making it weird, with because
Yeah.
she's like falling in love with him. When
Right.
really what it is she just needs love, period. And I
Yes.
just love the way that resolves before the film's end,
Mm-hmm.
and that's returned. I guess is the best way to not say a lot about it, but to say it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just kind of love this film and the story and the care that's put into it. It could be my number one. I don't know why it's not, but it's just yeah, it's just a great film.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with everything you just said. Great movie. Let's move on to my number four, which is one of my favorites. All my top five, by the way, my top three are all 5 stars. These five
Mm.
and four are both 4.5 stars. Um, this is a Michael Mann film from 2004 called Collateral. Um,
Okay, I wonder if you're gonna mention this one. Yeah.
oh man, I'm such a huge fan of this movie. It's Tom Cruise as we've never seen him before, playing the hitman, the villain essentially of the piece, the antagonist, and Jamie Foxx is kind of the protagonist who's just thrust into this wild night of murder and mayhem.
Yeah.
He's a cab driver, and Tom Cruise happens to get into his cab, and chaos ensues, and the back and forth between the two of them is just exquisite. It's the way it's written is great, the way it's shot, the performances are just so spot on. I just really like this movie. Tom Cruise not only acting, differently as this kind of cold-blooded killer, who has such a unique perspective. I've always thought about in these movies, like, how does someone justify having that kind of life? Um,
Right.
and
Right.
the way he does it is, in his opinion, he's not killing anyone. He's just doing a job. And I
Right.
think I forget the line. It's Jamie Foxx asks him something like, "How can you kill people like that? Did you kill them or something like that?" And he's like, "No, I didn't kill them. The bullets in the fall killed them." So it's like how he's trying to justify himself throughout the movie.
That
Very
works. Yeah.
interesting. Jada Pinkett Smith is in this as well. I think she's great. She's got a smaller role, but I think she's really good. And like I said, Michael Mann directed it. He's one of my favorite directors. He did Heat. He's done several films that I've really enjoyed. Last of the Mohicans. I just think he's a
Yeah.
great filmmaker. And this was the first film he shot digitally. This is,
Oh,
early
okay.
2000s when digital was taking over. And some people don't
Yeah.
like the look of the movie because it is all shot digitally and it's shot at
Mm.
night. So it has kind of a
Right.
weird look to it. I don't mind it. I think it looks fine. It looks different, than other movies. I don't mind it. Has a really good score. The tension throughout this movie is palpable. Great
Mm.
action sequences. There's an action sequence in a nightclub that's very memorable. And so yeah, it's a movie I've enjoyed a number of times because of mostly because of Cruise. Jamie Foxx is great too, but Cruise is just so different. And I kind of wish he
Yeah.
would take more roles like this, not necessarily just villain roles, but just more stretching himself as an actor more. Which and he's a great actor. He's done so many great roles, but
Yeah.
just here he's so different. And his look is so different. The gray hair and the whole thing is just really stands out. Among his career and the roles that he's played. So yeah, that had to make the list. Ended up at number four.
not to get too deep, but a hitman is under orders as per the contract, right?
Correct.
A soldier's under orders. A soldier might rationalize,
Right.
well, I'm doing it for the greater good,
Right.
but yet that's never really vetted by the soldier, right? They have to
Sure.
depend on, so the hitman's depending on the originator of the contract
Yeah. Right.
to decide. I think there's a line in Leon, I can't remember the line, but he talks about that
Yes.
as far as he's just following orders and he's not the one that decides, who should be hit or
Right. For all
whatnot.
he knows,
And
these are really bad guys that he's dispensing of,
yeah,
Yeah,
it's a theme that I think is played within a lot of these movies, but
it is.
they don't ever get really too deep into it, but it's interesting to
Sure.
think about.
It is. It is for sure. All right, Bert, on to number three, our top three. So what do you have in the number three spot?
One you mentioned earlier, Born Identity.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Excellent movie. Great film.
And again, yeah, and again, just I when I saw this film when it came out, I really couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, this was the Matt Damon that I never dreamt that we would see.
Right.
And I just the whole time I'm thinking, yes, like, yeah, is Matt Damon really going to pull this off? And he does. And I wouldn't say it's Keanu Reeves level or anything, but and the film does rely a lot on tight edits, but I
Mm-hmm.
do actually feel like he's doing the kicks and the punches and all that kind of
Oh
stuff.
yeah. Yeah, for
And
sure.
and the way it's presented throughout the film is so jarring and it felt so new and
Mm-hmm.
exciting compared to a lot of films before it. So Born Identity is it's just a great story, compelling story. The idea that this guy doesn't even know who he is, kind of like the movie I was talking about before, Long Kiss Goodnight.
Yeah.
And then when we find out what that is, it's just all goodness from there. And
Yeah.
we get to discover that with him,
Yes.
which a lot of movies have done this kind of thing. And
Right.
so you feel like you're in the actor's in that character's shoes
Yep.
as a result. And I think that's why it brings you in so much. And then what I really like about Born, and obviously I picked this one and not one of the others in the series. I just like the simpleness of the story,
Mm.
and um, in all the films, Bourne is great because he doesn't do big, giant, flashy stunts necessarily. A lot of it is him using his mind and
Yeah.
cleverness and quick speed to outsmart people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's ducking around this corner quick enough or whatever he's got in mind. Going
Yeah.
out on a ledge and this kind of stuff. So
Right.
I think it pulls it off the best in the first one. And I want to ask you your thoughts about it. Maybe one of these days we should rank them, but
Yeah.
I actually really like the Jeremy Renner film.
Yeah. I like that one. I like
Um,
that one a lot.
but I didn't so much like the most recent film called Jason Bourne. I thought that one was not
Yeah.
on par with the rest. You
It
agree?
really wasn't. Yeah, I totally agree. I think the trilogy
Yeah,
is pretty much a
yeah,
perfect trilogy. It's one of my favorites. I think that three-part
yeah,
story of Bourne is perfect and it was done. And then the Renner idea was
yeah.
cool because it was like another character in that world. And I thought that was a great way forward. And then when they came back and did it with Damon again, it fell flat for me. The story just didn't
Something
really
was missing.
work. Yeah. Yeah, I felt
Something
like
was
they felt
missing.
like they had to do it or something, like it was a studio
Yeah,
mandate maybe, or the
yeah,
fans
yeah,
kept bothering them about it. So like, all right, we'll do another one. They didn't really have a passionate story they wanted to tell. That's
yeah.
kind of was my feeling on it. But
Right.
yeah, they're all
Yeah.
good. I've read the Born Identity book, the Robert
Have
Ludlum.
you? Okay.
The first book
Yeah.
is excellent.
Does it
And of
follow
course,
closely?
it follows very closely.
Okay.
That book was written though in like the 60s or 70s, right? So
Mm.
the technology is all different. Like I remember specifically
Yeah.
when he has that implant in his hip, and
Oh
in the
yeah,
movie he
yeah.
pulls out and it's like a laser, shows you the bank information or whatever. In the book,
Okay.
it's like a roll of film. Like he has to like shine a
Ouch.
light on, yeah, a little bit larger incision there. But yeah, little things like that are different. But yeah, no, it definitely stays true to the spirit of the book and the character. And like you're saying, the story is great because yeah, we are very much in his shoes because we don't know. We're kind of learning with him who he really is. But then they also give
Yes.
us the female character who kind of
Right.
comes
Yeah,
into it,
right.
who's fantastic as well. So yeah, yeah, great movie. Like I said, all the first three I think are all just kind of perfect action movies. They're all so well done.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the supporting cast, but they're great. So that,
Yeah,
enough said, but
yeah,
that helps kind of round it all out. There's some
Yes,
great actors
definitely.
in there. Yeah.
Absolutely agree. Yeah, we should do a Bourne discussion one day.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'll end up rebooting it. Maybe when they reboot the franchise, we'll
Right.
do a ranking or something. All right, on to my number three, which is one that you were just talking about. It is Leon, the Professional.
Oh yeah,
Um,
Leon.
yeah, right, the
Different
French.
characters say it different ways
Right,
depending,
yeah, that's
on
true.
yeah.
Yeah, you get it different ways in the movie. Yeah, Luc Besson directed it, French director who I'm a huge fan of. His movies like The Fifth Element is one of my all-time favorite sci-fi movies, which I was watching they have a great making of documentary on this Blu-ray, um, and they were talking about how, him and his kind of typical crew were prepping Fifth Element. They were getting everything ready for Fifth Element.
Oh,
And I guess he came up with this idea during prep because prep was taking so
really?
long that he's like,
Oh,
let's go shoot Leon real quick and then we'll get back to Fifth Element because Fifth Element is such a huge production. This is such a
yeah.
small, intimate
Right.
film, no special
Yeah.
effects, it's
Yeah.
like all just real locations and actors and rooms and
Hmm.
it's great. It's one of those movies that it's a great character piece. Jean
Hmm.
Reno's best performance for me that I've ever seen him give.
Yeah.
Natalie Portman's probably best performance too. I mean, she
Maybe.
was
Yeah.
so young and to pull this off so believably, the scene where she's ringing his
Right.
doorbell always gets
I
me. I mean,
know.
that is
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
good scene. And like you mentioned, Gary Oldman, just phenomenal in this. He's so memorable. It's a great, great film. New York is also a character, I feel like. I really feel like I mean, they shot it in New York, so that's why.
Yeah.
But it really feels like you're there, you're on the streets with them, in these
Yeah.
various hotels they're going to and
Yeah.
different
Even
things
the
like that.
interiors that you still feel like you're in the city and not
Right.
necessarily on a set.
Yes.
So to pull that
100%.
off, I mean, it does take effort. Yeah.
Definitely. Definitely. Totally
The
agree.
sounds and all that soundscape. Yeah.
The sound, yeah, I was going to mention the sound design is
Yeah.
fantastic in this. The score is very good. Like you're mentioning, the balance of the dramatic story of what's going on with Matilda and Leon and that relationship and just how real that feels. And, like you're mentioning, the relationship, it never gets creepy, right? It could have very easily gotten creepy and weird, but
And I would be very put off
it's
if it went there. And so,
definitely, definitely, I
so
totally agree. And the way they
right.
balance that with, like you're saying, he's very put off by that and like is trying to he doesn't
Right.
really want this in the first place.
Right.
um
Right.
but as you get his backstory you kind of get why he's doing this for her because kind of he was in somewhat of a similar situation I guess you could say when he was young.
Yeah.
And so and she's you get to see her home life and how awful that was. And so that's what I think really helps because if you hadn't seen that, it would feel awkward. But
Oh,
like you
sure.
said, it's her just kind of wanting anyone to care about her.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me that all works brilliantly. The action is really good. I'd kind of forgotten some of the amazing action sequences, particularly at the end of the movie, that are really
Yeah. Yeah.
explosive and intense. And so all of that's handled very well. The dialogue, it's all very well written. The humor, I had forgotten how funny it was. There are several just laugh out loud moments. With
Yeah.
with the characters. The characters are just so different. But he really is trying to like be kind of a father. Like the whole scene where she's kind of acting like Madonna or Marilyn Monroe, and he's having the guests, and then he comes out as John Wayne. It's just such a great scene. It's so
Yeah.
funny. And this
Because
in
this guy
the
would never, ever, ever do this kind of stuff if not for the
yes,
weird situation that he's put in. That's what's so great
100%.
about it.
That's
Yeah.
exactly right. That's exactly right. So yeah, there's a real sense of danger to the movie, but
Yeah.
again, it's balanced with the humor and it's just a perfect movie. It's a 5-star film for me. It's one of those that I can revisit time and time again. This includes the extended edition, which I think is the superior movie,
Mm.
which adds about 20 minutes of footage to the film. So that's the version I would go with. That's the version Besson intended to release. The American studios, I guess, wanted him to cut out certain scenes, but yeah, that's Leon. That's one of my favorites. So it made the top three. These top three are all again kind of interchangeable for me, as kind of sometimes happens with these, but that ended up at the three spot. So Bert, give us your number two.
Well, you got to include one of the John Wick films, and I like that yours was sort of the more simple, basic one, not,
Right.
not basic in a bad way,
Right.
but
Sure.
just good, smaller story. So I
Yes.
went on the other end of the spectrum with part four,
Yeah.
with this just absolutely epic
Yes.
film that who would have thought it could graduate to where it goes,
I
right?
know.
Um,
Yeah.
in a 2.5 hour runtime, and
Mm,
goodness, where to start really, but the visuals,
yeah.
the stunts, the entire film, I mean, pretty much, and not just average stunts. We talked about this before, just like there's things they pull off that I know it's not CGI, because I'd probably be able to tell that
Right.
the stunt man is not a real person with
Yeah.
what's happening to him, like
Yeah.
when he's hits by a moving car or something like that. Yet how can they do it without getting injured? It
Yeah.
just is a head scratcher, and I love that, and that
Yes.
happens
Yes.
numerous times. The stair
Right.
sequence we talked about recently, I
Mm,
just
mm,
don't, padding it all. It still doesn't make sense in my brain, and that's great. That's what makes it so good,
yes.
because they're really, really, really pushing it in this
Mm,
film.
hmm.
And there's just a lot of creativity that went into this picture. I love the coloring of it. The music's right up my alley. I mean, there's a lot of electronic kind of music
Right.
that's very much in the forefront. Again, we've got a man of few words, but I feel like we know him pretty well at this point. I
Yeah.
think by the
Right.
fourth film. I do have a couple issues with it that I mentioned when we brought this up. With he's a little too, indestructible,
Sure.
and can kind of always seems to know where the bad guy's coming from. But what overrides that is just the incredible stunt work and physicality that
Mm,
Keanu puts into this, and the
hmm.
others that are along his side. Of course, Ip Man himself, and that kind of thing. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, this film is just I've seen it 3 times now, and I'm at 4.5 stars, but it's
Yeah.
borderline five, because
Yeah.
even with the slight nitpicks, I'm just like, this is just wall to wall, just sonic and visual entertainment.
Yeah. Totally agree. Yeah. Go check out our John Wick podcast. We ranked and reviewed every John Wick movie, went into detail on all of them. They're fantastic. Each one, like you said, gets bigger and wilder. And yeah, this fourth one, it's one of the best action movies ever made. It's just there's no two
Yeah,
ways around it. I don't see how you could watch it and not think that. I mean, like you're saying, the stunts, the visuals, the storytelling, all of it is just so great. The world building. That's one thing I like about the John Wick series is how
yeah,
each movie kind of you get a better understanding of okay, how does this world work? Because in the second movie, you're like, okay, wait, half the world's just assassins, like they're just all going after him, and so you learn more about that and how it works and the kind of
yeah.
hierarchy. And Bill Skarsgård, who you mentioned earlier, is in this fourth
All
one,
right,
is a
yeah, I didn't even get a chance
fantastic
to mention him.
character.
Yeah, yeah,
And like you're mentioning Donnie Yen and just all the huge action guys. A guy named Scott Adkins, who's a big stunt guy, shows up in this. He's unrecognizable in the film, but he's a great character in that too. And so yeah, and the things they're doing, with the dogs,
yeah,
is
yeah,
is great and all of it. So yeah, just a fantastic film. Keanu is definitely one of the best action stars of our time. Who would have thought back in the 80s or 90s that he would become what he's become? But it's pretty amazing the dedication. And Chad Stahelski, we have to mention, who directed all these
yeah.
movies, former stuntman who just knows the craft and just did an incredible job with all those movies. Can't wait to see what he does next. I think he's going to do the Highlander reboot, which will be
Oh
interesting with
yeah.
Henry Cavill.
Oh
So
wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So great pick, great pick. All right, we'll move on to my number two. This is a film from 2002 starring Tom Hanks, one of my favorite actors.
Mm.
Again, another, like Tom Cruise, before him. I guess this was before Collateral came out. Kind of nice guy, good guy actor everyone loves. Becomes this hardened hitman in this movie called Road to Perdition, which I just think is one of his best performances. Sam Mendes directed it, and he's gone on to do, the more recent Bond films, Skyfall and Spectre. He did 1917.
Oh,
Won the Academy
yeah.
Award. His debut film was American Beauty, which won him Best
Oh, right.
Picture. So and ever since then, I think his movies have only gotten better, although he hasn't won any more Oscars since then. But Paul Newman is in this, who's fantastic, and older Paul Newman, one of his last film roles. Daniel Craig, a young Daniel Craig before he became Bond and became very popular, as well as Jude Law, who
Hmm.
kind of was a rising star at the time. So a fantastic cast. Young Tyler Hoechlin plays Tom Hanks' son, and it's a father-son story. Like Leon is kind of a father-daughter story. This is a father-son story, uh, story about revenge and justice, and kind of how those two things can be intertwined, and hope for the future, and kind of not wanting the next generation to repeat the mistakes of the past. That kind of deals, heavily here. Paul Newman is also kind of a father figure to Tom Hanks, so there's kind of a layer to that. Very, very interesting, great movie. I haven't read it's based on a graphic novel, and I haven't read it, but I really
It
want
is?
to. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, it is. So, yeah, that's what I guess the producers found and decided they were going to make a movie about it. Great, again, storytelling. It's very detailed filmmaking. The lighting. It's all set in the 30s, so the aesthetic of recreating that era, around Chicago. It's actually several scenes in the film are in Chicago,
Hmm. Okay.
and it's really incredible. The costumes and all the sets and everything are just so immersive. It's a really very, very high production value, great production design, great music. Thomas Newman did the score here.
Yeah, he's good.
Great composer. Does very simple but very elegant themes that are very memorable. Sam Mendes, I got to listen to the commentary, talked a lot about the violence and
Oh.
how what you don't show is a lot of times more impactful than what you do show.
Yeah,
So you don't
yeah.
see a lot of violence head on in this film, even though I believe it is R-rated, because there are a couple moments where you get to see kind of the aftermath, but it's great. Real sense of danger and intensity. It's not just there to look cool. It's all story driven and things like that. Sequences in the rain that are very memorable as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, great filmmaking. I would probably say this is my favorite of Sam Mendes films. Like I said, I think we did a Tom Hanks ranking, and this was definitely in my top five. So huge fan of this movie. It's very, very impactful, and thematically, it's very strong as well. So that had to make the list. Made it number two.
Yeah, and I think we talked about this film one time before, and I said that I distinctly remember this film and a lot of the things you're talking about, and it very well made, very well acted. I, it was the ending that it just
Yeah,
I was so, and this is me. Like I was just kind of wanting sort of like a little slightly happier
right.
ending, let's just say. And I need to go back and watch this because I
Yeah.
kind of dismissed the film after that. I'm like, well, that wasn't the ending
Mm.
I want, but it was a very well made film, so I need to
Yeah,
revisit this. Yeah.
definitely should. Alrighty, well, that is my number two pick. So Bert, we're on to your number one. What do you got?
Okay, possibly another guilty pleasure here, but I have got James Mangold's Night and Day
Oh, okay, yes.
at
Great
number
movie.
one.
Yeah,
Yeah, and Tom Cruise again,
right.
not playing a bad guy per se, not like in that other movie, at
Right.
least, and Cameron Diaz in a
Yeah.
film that just finds basically this perfect mix, I feel like, of action and comedy.
Mm,
Um,
hmm.
there's scenes in this film where the action and comedy is, well, the action is so funny that it kind of makes me think of Jackie Chan
Right.
because of the things that occur, or like a prop that Tom Cruise's character will use to
Right.
disarm someone or assassinate them. And then there's something, funny in the midst that will happen. And it just reminds me of that. Not quite to the extent maybe,
Right.
but that's how good the comedy is. The film's got some great locales, some
Mm,
really
yeah.
fun twists and turns. It looks great. Some great edits. The thing is, you can't really pin this film down, and that's what I love
Yeah.
about it. I've probably seen this film 4 or 5 times, and every time I watch it, I can't remember what what most of the scenes are. And then when I'm
Yeah.
watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That happened. So I
Right.
like those movies that I don't know if you have any movies like that where you love it every time you watch it, but when you think about it, you're like, I can't really even remember a lot of the scene. Not that they're not
Yeah.
memorable,
Right. Right.
but that I feel like there's so much packed in there that every
Yes.
time I watch it, it's almost like watching it for the first time.
Yeah. Totally.
So I mean this in a good way.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm just laughing throughout this thing. We did a Tom Cruise ranking, and I'm sure it was near the top.
Oh yeah.
Uh, because not only one of my favorites of his, but I've currently got this number 39 on my all-time films
Wow.
because I just get so much enjoyment out of
Yeah.
the action scenes mixed with the comedy. I mean, it's like
Yeah.
the perfect blend. I mean, I don't know if there's a better one of blending comedy and action. I'd have to look at my list, but it's got to be pretty much the best one at those two things.
Yeah. For sure.
The actors are great. The direction is really fantastic. So, yeah, that's what I've got. I mean, I just I can't wait till I see it again. Like I want to go watch it
Yeah.
right now. That's how much I love this film.
Yeah, it is a great one. It's definitely one of my favorites as well. And yeah, it's one of those you can watch anytime. It's one that you can just throw on and always get a kick out of it because it is so funny. The the way the characters meet on the plane is such a great sequence, and all the action is like you're saying, it's really well executed action, and it's pretty over the
Yeah.
top, but it rides that
Yeah.
line of just
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
realistic enough to
Right.
not break its reality. So yeah, excellent pick. James Mangold, one of my favorite directors. That's one of his best movies. And yeah, Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. I think that's the first film they had, or they I think they had done, didn't they do Vanilla Sky together?
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I haven't seen Vanilla Sky, but you
I
mentioned that
haven't
she was in
either.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm
Much different
yeah.
film.
Yeah, right, exactly. But yeah, they're great in that. Cameron Diaz, she hasn't worked in a while, but
Yeah.
she's doing a movie this year with Jamie Foxx called Back in
Okay.
Action. And I'm wondering if it's
Hmm.
going to be in the same vein as Night and Day. It kind of the premise
Hmm.
sounds somewhat similar. So
Really?
we'll have to wait and see. Yeah, it's a Netflix movie. I think it's set to come out in like November or something. So we'll have to wait and see what that is. But yeah, this is like you're saying, it's the peak of action comedy, the perfect blend of the two.
Yeah.
Great characters and a great character dynamic. You really like the characters and you want to see them together
Yeah.
and succeed. It's one of those that it makes you root for them. So yeah,
Yeah.
excellent
Yeah.
pick.
Yeah, and I just want to say one more thing real quick.
Yeah.
Just the script is really vetted, and
Oh yeah.
I just love how the action scenes aren't the typical Cruise like he's got some really action scenes that are very memorable,
Yeah.
but just that mixture of comedy, like it
Right.
takes time to work out that, and I can only imagine in the editing room, I don't even know exactly how they can pull off some of those just really clever moments throughout this whole film, really that
Yeah.
just yeah keep me coming back.
Yes, absolutely. Well, there's a connection between our number ones. I just realized an actor from Night and Day. He's kind of the MacGuffin of that movie. The actor's name is Paul Dano. I forget his character's name, but he's kind of the one they're going after on the
Oh,
train, you know.
from
Um,
Batman, the Batman.
yeah. He played the Riddler. Yep.
Oh, he's in this, huh?
Um, yeah, he's in my film as well. He has a supporting role, but he's a great actor I really like. But my number one pick is from 2012. It's a sci-fi film titled Looper.
Okay, all right.
Looper Looper is a really interesting film. It's a time travel movie
Hmm.
starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Bruce Willis as the same character. They're both playing the same character in this film at different points in his
Yeah.
life, and he's a hitman. So in the future, hitmen, it's time travel in the present day of the movie has not been invented yet, but in the future it's invented. And so the mob
Sure.
sends back people they want killed
Oh,
to the past, and hitmen are waiting
yeah.
for them and kill them. And that way it's easy to dispose of the body, and the mob doesn't have to worry about the cops coming after them or anything like that. So, so it's
Kind of
a
like
really
Terminator,
kind of
right?
like Terminator, a little bit like Terminator. Right, right. But the Terminators are in the past and they send back the victim. So, very unique premise, very different because the world building here is different. The technology is always fun to look at. The weapons, stuff like that is all a little bit different, but it's not
Hmm.
like laser guns or anything. It's not, crazy out of the realm of
It's
possibility
believable.
stuff. Very believable. Have you not seen this?
Okay.
It sounds like you haven't
You know,
watched it
I
or
thought I'd watched it, but I don't remember anything about it.
okay.
So maybe I haven't seen it. I definitely
Okay.
need to. I mean, if it's your number one on this list, I'm definitely going to seek it out. I love those two actors that are
Oh
in it,
yeah. Yeah,
and
and
I
it's
love
a
time
time
travel
travel movie.
films.
So yeah, I know you're
Yeah,
a huge fan of that genre. So you got to watch
yeah.
this. Yeah, seek it out. I
Okay,
don't know where it's streaming, but
okay,
you gotta check it out. I've got the Blu-ray. I've got it on in the background here. And it's great. It's also got Jeff Daniels in it,
okay.
who's great in
Oh yeah.
this. Very different kind of role for him. There's all kinds of different things in the movie too that are make it stand out. Emily Blunt is also another
Oh,
character who ends up coming into the story a little bit later.
like her. Uh-huh.
Yeah, she's fantastic in this. This is, I think, actually her
Hmm.
best performance she's ever given. One thing that people criticize the movie for is um, they tried to make Joseph Gordon-Levitt look like a young Bruce Willis, so he's wearing prosthetics in the film.
Oh,
And
yeah.
some people
Okay.
felt were off put by that. It doesn't bother me. I don't know if it's maybe because I've seen the movie so many times now, I'm just used to it or what, but I don't
Yeah.
remember it ever really bothering me. I don't know. I think I remember when the movie came out, watching a lot of interviews with him, he studied a lot of old Bruce Willis movies, particularly Die Hard,
Really?
younger Bruce Willis, and really got his mannerisms down, facial
Oh, that's interesting.
expressions. I mean,
Yeah.
it's pretty uncanny what he was able
Wow.
to
Okay.
accomplish in this movie. I think the performance is fantastic. And Bruce Willis, I think this is perhaps even his best performance because
Really?
he's kind of playing this character who was this hitman who's very world weary. And as the movie progresses, you kind of fill in the gaps, right, of what
Mhm.
happened between this young, kind of very arrogant hitman character that Joseph Gordon-Levitt's playing
Yeah.
and an older Bruce Willis who's much wiser and kind of doesn't want anything to do with that whole lifestyle. So the way
Hmm.
they fill in the gaps there is really effective, and they basically do it via kind of a montage, but it's very
Hmm.
effectively done.
Okay.
Rian Johnson wrote and directed this. It's an
Okay.
original screenplay, which I love. Just original
Yeah.
ideas, something that's
Right.
unique. It doesn't beg a sequel or anything like that. It's just like one standalone movie that just works. Um, yeah, great film, great action sequences, great world building, great dialogue. Um, yeah, I won't give away anything else because I want you to
Okay.
see it and
Yeah. Yeah.
it's so well done. The
Okay.
the effects is great, all that stuff. The kind of like I mentioned, just the character's kind of story is really, really good and impactful. And the ending is definitely memorable too. So it's one that you should definitely seek out. Again, it came out back in 2012. It's called Looper. So yeah, that ended up being my number one. It's maybe not quite as unique as as your earlier pick, but it's got that the fact that it's a sci-fi kind of
Yeah.
time travel story with hitmen
Yeah.
is
Right.
it makes it unique. So yeah, that ended up being my number one.
Yeah. I can't wait to check that out. Emily Blunt, she must have been relatively unknown at that point, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Had
this
she
is
done
before
something?
yeah, before Quiet Place. I think she had
Yeah. Oh
just
yeah.
done Devil Wears Prada maybe or something like that.
Oh, okay. I've
Um
not seen that film.
yeah, that was kind of the start of her career, and this is just a few years
Okay.
after that. So yeah, this is before
Okay.
Edge of Tomorrow,
All
before
right.
any of
Yeah.
that. So
Yeah. Okay. Nice.
yep. All right, folks. Well, that's it for our best Hitman slash assassin movies of all time. We gave you a top 10 because there were just so many. We couldn't narrow it down to just a top five, but we ranked them, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Bert, thanks for joining me on this episode. It's another good one.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I'm glad you ended on a time travel film too. That was awesome.
Yes, bring us full circle with Looper
Right.
there at the end.
Every genre hits.
That's right. We pretty much did. Yeah, we got comedy in there. We've got drama. We've got sci-fi. So yeah, some good stuff. Let us know your list in the comments below. We want to know what your favorite movies about Hitman are. If you got to see the new movie Hitman on Netflix, let us know what you thought of that as well. We'll be back next week with an all new episode of the podcast. So be on the lookout for that. We're going to be reviewing some of these Blu-rays I talked about this week on the channel. So make sure you hit the like button, hit subscribe, hit the bell so you get notified of all our videos, and we'll see you next time right here on The Real World.